What is up, guys? Today is December 31st, 2022, and it is actually the last 6 hours of 2022. I've decided to shave off my beard and start the new year with a fresh, clean shave. And I'm about to pack up right now and head over to the New Year's party. So the next couple clips you guys will see will be from our New Year's Eve party going into New Year's. So yeah, Happy New Year. I probably will be too occupied at the time to actually do a vlog or update when it crosses over into the new year. So I just want to say now, Happy New Year. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And very much looking forward to what this new year has to offer and the goals that we'll be setting, which I will announce here on the channel very shortly after this video. So once again, thank you guys so much for all the love and support in 2022. It was a fantastic year. Very fond of the memories that we made this past year, but very excited for the future memories, for the future moments and memories that we'll make this year and the goals that we will achieve this year. So be sure to subscribe to the channel to see what is going to come in this new year. All right, welcome to episode 2 of the How to Gym series. This one is going to be all about a push day. So if you don't know what a push day is, it is a combination of chest exercises, tricep exercises, and shoulder exercises. So obviously you don't have to do everything I'm doing in this video. This is just an example of what I like to do in one of my push days. And we're going to start with some basic stretching, just opening up the shoulders and the chest, the pectoral muscles. And that will just allow us to get a greater range of motion. It'll get blood pumping into the muscles before we start loading them, which will minimize any risk of injury or any kind of tweaks. So I like to just start by opening up with this band here. So I'll do a few of those and then I'll step into the band here and I will get a wide grip, like shoulder width apart, and I'll just pull up. This is called an upright row, and this will get blood flowing into the shoulders. Everyone is different, but for me personally, my shoulders need the most time warming up, and that is because I dealt with a left shoulder injury not too long ago. So I do like to make sure that my shoulders are nice and warm. Okay, so the first exercise I'm going to walk you through is the bench press. This is a classic exercise that's been used by bodybuilders and powerlifters for many years to gain strength and size. And the most important thing to remember with the bench press, the one thing I want you to keep in mind from this video, if anything, is form. That is going to be something that protects you against injury in your shoulders and is going to let you do this movement and any kind of movement for a long time. Now I'm going to go ahead and start with warming up with just the bar when I feel ready. And I'm going to look at the knurling on the bar and I'm going to see a couple of stripes on it. And that's where I'm going to place my pinkies. And the first thing I'm going to do is lift my stomach as high as I can in the air, creating an arc in my lower back. So my lower back right now is not touching the bench at all. Just my shoulder blades or scapulas are touching, my butt is touching,
and my head is touching. That is it. My lower back is not touching the bench at all, and that is what you want. You want your chest and your stomach to be nice and up in the air. Now I'm gonna pick the bar up, and I'm keeping my chest up, and I'm keeping my feet glued to the floor, my butt glued to the bench, and my scapulas glued to the bench. I'm gonna come down right to about the nipple line, and I'm gonna push up with force. I'm gonna come down slow, just touch the chest at the nipple line, and explode up. Now, often people will kind of flail their legs when they're starting the bench press, but that's not what you want to do. You want to keep them nice and just give the ground a nice stomp, and wherever your feet naturally land on the stomp, just make sure you keep them glued there. And that is how you do the bench press. Now, for my warm-up sets, I'm going to work up by doing 25 pounds on each side, then 45 pounds on each side, and I'm gonna work my way up like that until I get to my desired working set weight. And once I get to that working set weight, I'm gonna be doing 3 sets and 8 to 12 reps per set. All right, so now by pyramiding up 25 pounds on each side, then 45 pounds on each side, then now 45 and 25 on each side, I found my rep range where I'm starting to struggle to get to that 8 to 12. So on this last set, I got 10 reps and 12 would have really been pushing it. So especially alone without a spotter. So I've decided to just keep it at 45 and a 25 on each side. I'm actually out of breath. That was good. So now that I found the sweet spot where my range is 8 to 12 and I got 10 just barely by myself, that is the weight that I'm gonna stay at. I'm not gonna push it any further because my goal for today specifically is to get 8 to 12 reps in a set. So that's what I'm gonna do. Any more than that would just be pushing it, especially because I don't have a spotter here today on hand. And you really have to know your own limits when you're training on your own. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish 2 more sets of this exercise in that 8 to 12 range. And then I am going to do the next exercise and show you guys what that is. All right, so the next exercise on my program for this push day is called a landmine chest press. Now, I don't know if this is the official term for it, but this is what I could find on Google, so just bear with me if it's not. So, with that being said, we are gonna start in the starting position here with the landmine chest press, and this is gonna target the upper pectoral or upper chest muscles, and it's also gonna get the triceps as well. So, with this exercise, we don't wanna be out here and using like kind of our leg strength to be pushing. We want to be fairly straight. I understand that you can't be perfectly straight with this because then you'll start falling back. But for the most part, we want to be as straight as we can be. And we want our hands to not be down here because then this can hit us in the face. But we want our hands to be up at the top. And you're going to take your most dominant hand, so for me it's my right hand, and put it at the top of the bar. And lesser dominant hand on the bottom. And again, not going to be using any kind of leg momentum or back momentum to control this weight. I'm going to be fully controlling this weight with my arms, just letting it come as low as it possibly can without actually touching the chest, and then using the arms to press it up. And when you do this, this will actually target your upper chest, and you'll feel that a lot. Just a couple reps in, if you do it properly, you will already feel stress right here at the top of the chest, and that's exactly where you want to feel it. And you may also feel it in the front of your delt or your shoulder, and you'll feel it in your triceps as well. And that's exactly what we're aiming for with this exercise, to hit those 3 muscle groups, but primarily the upper chest muscles. It's a nice kind of hot, warm, burning sensation in the chest muscles. And that's exactly that feeling that you want. And you don't want to stop right when you get to that feeling. That's why it's important to kind of test weights and test set range or rep ranges, because you don't want to stop right as soon as you start feeling it in the muscle. You want to actually go beyond that, 3 to 5 reps beyond that sensation, because that's what's actually going to be tearing down the muscle fibers, allowing them to rebuild bigger and stronger for the next time that you work out. And that will not only make you bigger in the long run, but it'll make you stronger as well. And strength is a key aspect of aging well and just being a healthier individual overall. Now, in all transparency, in place of this, I usually do free weights with dumbbells on a flat bench press, but for the sake of this video and for the sake of simplicity and for trying to teach beginners, I'm going to use this Pec machine or Pec Fly machine, because pretty much all gyms will have this, and there's less of a learning curve on a machine like this than there is on trying to stabilize a pair of dumbbells on a bench by yourself. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start this exercise. I don't like to start on the pec deck with these too far back. Some people like to kind of start with them all the way back here, and it can be really awkward, especially if it's your first time using this machine. As you get more advanced, you can, take this further back if you want to, but for beginners starting, and even for myself now, I still like to use not too deep of a starting point, just because I have had shoulder injuries and stuff in the past. So this actually feels more comfortable anyway for my shoulders. But again, if you are more advanced, you can go ahead and move it back further to get more of a stretch. Okay, so we're gonna make this the starting point of this exercise. You want these to be touching at the top here, and you don't want your elbows to be in too much. You want them to be out as far as you can bring them out. And this is gonna be our starting point. And we're just gonna slowly let the weight go back, and we're using our shoulders as a hinge. So we're not bringing these together like that, because the further you keep your elbows apart, the less of the inner chest muscles you're actually gonna activate. So when you bring your arms straighter out, you're able to come together, and you'll feel this if you do it at your gym, or even if you do it now without any weights. If you're watching this at home, feel free to just kind of bring your elbows to the point where they're almost locked out. You don't want them fully locked. You want them to still have a slight bend in them, but bring them as far as you can together with your elbows not locked out, and you will feel more in the inner chest a stretch than you will if you were to go like this. So we're gonna use the shoulder. We're gonna lock our arms in place, and you just let the shoulders be like a hinge essentially. And I'm gonna go for probably 10 to 15, I would say, on this exercise based on the weight that I'm currently at. Another key form factor that you wanna make sure you're paying attention to during this exercise is not allowing your back to round out like this. I've seen a lot of people, they'll start the exercise in the correct position with their chest out and up, and then by the time they get here, they'll be using their back muscles and their arms to help it just close it out like that. You definitely don't want to do that, because again, I say this a lot, but you can get injured if you do this. And also it takes all the pressure and all the tension out of your chest, which is actually where you want to keep all the tension, because those are the muscle fibers that we're trying to isolate and break down. So as soon as you bring the back into it like this, you'll actually feel all of the weight in your arms and your shoulders, and even in your back, where your upper traps near your neck, and you'll feel all of it leave your chest completely, which is not what you want. So start the exercise with your chest out and up, and finish the exercise with your chest out and up. And you'll feel all the tension in the chest throughout the entire range of motion. where it's supposed to be. What do you mean? So the first exercise of our tricep portion of this push day is going to be skull crushers with a barbell or an easy curl bar. Now, a regular barbell is just straight across, and an easy curl bar has these sort of squiggly lines through it. And those lines just help you get an easier grip on it, which is why it's called an easy curl bar. And I'm going to be using the narrow grip. So this is what my grip is going to look like on the bar, and that's going to be over my head. So like I said, narrow grip on the easy curl bar, and I'm going to bring this back over top of my head, and I'm going to extend up. Now, very important here to control the weight the whole time. Going slow on the way down, pausing at the bottom, and going slow on the way up and pausing at the top. And you do want to lock out your elbows here, because that will help you get a full stretch on the triceps. Pause at the bottom, all the way up, pause at the top, slow down. Bring it down safely. And the rep range for this, with this weight for me, is going to be in that 8 to 12 rep range. Going to be doing 3 sets as always. Essentially every single exercise that I do is going to be 3 sets. And the reason I'm doing 3 sets is because I'm doing sort of mid-range repetitions, usually about 8 to 12 or 10 to 15 reps. If I was doing anything in the 15 to 20 rep range, I would increase my set range to 4 sets instead of 3. This is a great sort of compound tricep movement that activates all parts of the triceps, and it really lets you overload the weight too. So anytime you're doing something that's like a compound, is you're using more body parts. Like for example, if you do tricep extensions, like I'll show you later in this video, because it is part of this program today, you are isolating the triceps. And they're essentially the only thing doing any work in the movement. But compound like this, you're using a lot of weight and you're bringing your whole arms back and forward like that. So that is activating other muscles as well, but it is primarily still the tricep doing all the work. And because you're able to go heavy on that, since it's more of a compound, you are able to really shock that muscle and overload it with a lot of weight and get it working really hard. And then later, after this compound movement for the triceps, we are going to do some isolation movements like the rope pull downs or tricep push downs, and that will help further break it down and isolate it on its own. And that's honestly the basis of how I like to train all my muscle groups. I like to do a heavy compound in the first movement, and then I like to do a couple of isolation movements after that. That's basically exactly what we just did with the chest as well, starting off with the bench press, which is a compound movement, and then doing some isolation stuff like those landmine chest presses and some pec deck flies. All right, so look for any one of these 2 bars in your local gym. I personally prefer this shorter one, but this one will do the trick just fine. And we're gonna go ahead and hook it up to the top of the tricep pull down machine, whatever you wanna call that thing. We're gonna hook it up, and we're gonna choose a weight that we can get in the, I would say, 15 to 20 rep range for this one, since we're isolating the tricep now after doing a compound movement. So you may have to play around with that weight range and just find whatever works for you to get absolutely no more than 20 reps. That you want that to be you're dying at 20 reps in. By 15, you already want to be like right there, like you can barely get any more. But if you can go up to 20, that's all right, just by doing a few cheat reps. So explaining the form for this exercise can be a little tricky sometimes, but basically the way I'm going to explain it now is, so if I'm perfectly straight like this, just as a reference point, what I want to do is bend over slightly. so that I'm looking down at the ground, not looking directly in front of my feet, but I'm sort of looking at a 45-degree angle. And what I'm going to do then is take my arms, not going to move my back at all, but I'm going to reach up to where my arms are kind of hanging off of the bar here, and I'm going to take a half step or a full step back, depending on how long your stride is. And what I'm going to do now is bring the weight all the way down. Again, my back has not moved at all. It's not gone back straight. It's not gone any further forward. I'm still looking sort of 45 degrees down. And I'm going to slowly let the weight come up on its own by controlling it, so I'm not just like letting it fall. If this is my starting point, fully locked out with my arms, I'm letting it slowly come up on its own, controlling it with my muscles, and then I'm going to explode down all the way to lockout. And then I'm going to slowly let it come up, and I'm not going any further than that. So however long this movement is to where you've sort of done, like, you can almost explain it like doing a bicep hammer curl. So if you have to go any more, like if your shoulder comes into it after that point, then you know you've gone too far. So you want to keep your shoulder locked in this position and think of it almost like you're doing a bicep curl, but with your hands pointed downwards. So I'll show you again slowly. I'm letting it come to here, and that's it. And I'm exploding down. Letting it come to here, not rotating the shoulders at all. Stopping here. I'm looking 45 degrees down. I'm not bent over too much, and I'm not perfectly straight. Explode down. Let it come up. Explode down. Let it come up. Explode down. And I want to pause here too at the lockout, because that's where I really feel the tension in my tricep right now. Slow. Explode. Okay, so good news. This exercise, the tricep rope pull down or push down, is exactly the same form essentially as the last exercise that we just completed, which was the tricep bar push down. So same exact form, like I said. Bent over just slightly, looking down at a 45-degree angle, and the arms are moving in the exact same pattern or form as they were in the previous, acting like sort of like a curl. So we're starting in like a curled arm position, and we're pushing down and locking the elbows out. And for weight range, I would go about half of what you were doing on the tricep bar push down. So I was doing 110 for reps on the push down, and now on these rope push downs, I am doing 60 pounds. All right, so we are officially a third of the way through this push day. We have completed 3 exercises of chest, 3 exercises of tricep, and now we are moving on to our last 3 exercises of the day. And we are going to be starting the shoulder portion of this push day with the Arnold shoulder press. Now, a traditional shoulder press with dumbbells would look something like this. But the Arnold shoulder press is different because you're starting with your palms facing your face inwards, and as you push up, you're actually rotating them outwards. And when you come back down, you bring them back inside again. So now I'm going to do my first set. Going to be doing again 3 sets, 8 to 12 rep range on this with 40 pounds. Going to use my knees to bring the weight up to my shoulders. And this is going to be my starting position with my palms facing inwards. And I'm going to keep my chest up and outward And I'm just gonna slowly bring the weights down and rotate so that my palms are facing my face. And as I push up, I'm gonna switch it so that my palms are facing outward. The second shoulder exercise we're going to do, and the second to last of this entire workout, is going to be standing lateral shoulder raises. So I'm going a bit heavier today because this is a heavy day for me. So I will be doing 25 pounds and I'm going to be planting my feet shoulder width apart into the ground as firm as can be, because this is going to be the foundation for this entire exercise. And I'm going to lean over slightly, not too much. I don't want to be bent over as if I'm about to do a deadlift, and I don't want to be perfectly straight either. I want to be kind of similar to actually doing the tricep push downs on the rope machine there. You want to have that same sort of looking down at a 45-degree angle. And this is going to be the starting position with our hands for this exercise. And we're going to lift the weight up. And again, this is actually too hard for me to demonstrate with my actual working weights. So I'm going to go ahead and use 10 pounds here to demonstrate. So again, my feet are shoulder width apart. This is going to be the starting point. Dumbbells just in front of our thighs here. And we're going to lift up slowly. And we're going to really slowly let the weight just fall back down in a very controlled manner. We're not just letting it collapse and just kind of flying like a bird out here. What we want to do is bring the dumbbells in front of our thighs, slowly bring them up and give a slight twist. You can see my hands here. I'm not finishing here. I'm actually finishing the opposite way. So I'm giving a bit of a twist or a bit of a flare at the very end there. Flaring out, slowly letting the weight come back down in a controlled manner. Coming up, slowly letting it come back down. And for the top of the rep, we want to come just above our shoulders. So if my shoulders are right here, I'm coming up just above my shoulders. And you can see, I'm honestly struggling even with just doing 10 pounds. If you do it slow enough, that goes for any single exercise you do. If you use a weight that's a lot lighter than you're typically used to using, you can still get a great workout in if you do it slow enough and you do enough repetitions. Myself in this channel, you're not going to see any ego lifting on here. If I do any heavier weights, it's because I've worked my way up to that. It's not because I'm trying to prove anything. I have nothing to prove. Neither should you guys in the gym. The gym is a place to become healthy and to exercise and to feel good about yourself. And feeling good about yourself doesn't have to mean trying to do a weight that's completely out of your domain or what you should be trying to do, especially not to impress anybody else. So now I'm going to go ahead and do my working set with 25s. And we're going to keep in mind everything that I just walked you through. I'm going to be thinking about that constantly while I'm doing this exercise. All right, so I did 8. I'm trying to get 8 to 12, and that's about as much as I can do with strict proper form. So what I'm gonna do now is throw in some cheat reps. And what that means is just gonna be using my back to kind of swing up the weight a little bit and just pump out a few extra bonus reps. But notice I'm still coming down very slowly when I'm at the top of the movement to the bottom. I'm controlling the movement as much as I can, even though I'm getting some bonus cheat reps in there. All right, well, if you've made it this far in the video, thank you for sticking around. This is the final exercise in our push day, and this is going to be a rear delt pec deck fly. So we're on the same machine that we were doing pec deck flies, but what we're gonna do now is actually flip this so that these, I'm sitting backwards on the machine if you can't tell. So the backrest is now on my chest, and I've just flipped the arms to come all the way forward in this position now. Most machines will be able to do this. And I've set the weight at what my target weight is for this exercise and the rep range, which for me is gonna be about 15 to 20 reps. And what I'm gonna do now is target the rear part of the deltoid or the shoulder. So there's a muscle back here, which is called the rear delt. And this exercise that we're gonna do is gonna target that, and it's gonna help create like fullness and a 3D-ness to the muscle shape. Because if you just train the side of the muscle and do like presses and the front of the muscle or the front of the shoulder, then you're gonna be neglecting the rear part of the delt or the shoulder. And what that's gonna do is make your shoulders look really flat from behind and from the side profile. So we're gonna train the rear delts in this movement. And we're gonna start with our arms fully locked out and our chest pressed up against the backrest here. And we're simply just gonna do a reverse of the pec fly. And that's why it's called a reverse, like pec deck. So we're gonna slowly control the weight as we bring these arms forward, push out, and we're gonna pause. Slowly control it back and pause. And you should be feeling that right over here. And that's exactly where we want the tension to be. And you'll feel the tension the most at this point in the movement. And as you come back down, the tension will ease off. And it'll be at full tension again once you're back at this position. It's important to keep the chest up and even look up at the ceiling if you have to. Because if your form is off and you're too much like this, like tensed up, and what that's gonna do, it feels silly just doing it. It looks probably stupid, but what that, some people actually end up doing that and they don't even really notice. And that's one, because you're going too heavy on it. You're having to bring in your back and your traps to get that weight off. And what that does is it puts a lot of that sort of emphasis and a lot of that stress onto your trap muscles and your neck and your back and just other muscles that are not supposed to be involved in this movement. This is supposed to isolate that rear shoulder, the rear delt, which is a small part of the shoulder muscle, or it's a small muscle in general. So it doesn't need a lot of weight to get it activated. Like this stack here, this stack here goes all the way to 300 pounds. But my actual working sets are only at 75 pounds. So going like, you know, like this, then honestly you're capping, because you shouldn't be lifting that much anyway. You should be using proper form by keeping your chest up and your back up, looking at the ceiling if you have to, bringing the weight out slowly but strong, and then slowly and controlled coming back down. And for whatever reason, for me, it helps to keep my fingers and hands out instead of grabbing and holding onto the handles. I like to keep them out like this. For whatever reason, that just helps me to isolate the rear delt a bit more and slowly controlling the weight. You'll notice that's the theme with pretty much anything I say in every exercise for any muscle group, and that is because when it comes to bodybuilding and physically building your body bigger and stronger, form and time under tension is a key component to to bodybuilding and building up your muscles.
Nowhere to go, so far from home. Is this what giving up feels like? I don't know, I don't know. Tell me, have I lost my mind? So I